The church doors exploded open with a force that silenced 200 guests mid-breath. A young woman stood in the doorway, chest heaving, mascara streaking down her flushed cheeks. The officiant had just asked that age-old question, the one everyone assumes is ceremonial, the one no one ever actually answers. Does anyone object to this union? Her voice cracked through the stunned silence like breaking glass. Dad, you can't marry her. You don't know what she did. The father of the bride, a distinguished man in his early 50s with silver streaking his temples, turned pale. The woman in white, stunning in her fitted lace gown, froze. Her carefully practiced smile collapsed into something unreadable. Guests began whispering, pulling out phones, recording what they sensed would be the drama of the decade. The young woman's hands trembled as she clutched a manila folder to her chest. What she revealed next would turn the happiest day of her father's life into a nightmare and end with police sirens screaming through the church parking lot. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind 18 months. Richard Bennett was the kind of man people naturally respected. He'd built a successful consulting firm from the ground up, raised his daughter Emily alone after his wife Catherine died of cancer when Emily was just 14. For 10 years, Richard quietly drowned in loneliness, throwing himself into being both mother and father to his daughter. When Emily left for college, the house felt too big, too quiet, too full of memories Richard couldn't escape. Then, 2 years ago, everything changed at a charity gala. That's where he met Veronica Hayes. She was 38, nearly 12 years younger than Richard, with effortless elegance that made people turn their heads. She'd lost her parents young, she told him. She'd built herself up from nothing, working in non-profit fundraising, dedicating her life to helping others. Richard was captivated. For the first time in 10 years, he felt something other than grief. Within 8 months, he proposed. Emily came home for Thanksgiving and found her father transformed. Lighter, happier, laughing in ways she hadn't heard since before her mother got sick. Veronica seemed perfect, almost too perfect. Emily couldn't articulate why, but something felt off, like a photograph where the lighting doesn't quite match the shadows. Veronica was always saying the right thing, always positioning herself as supportive, but there was a calculation behind it Emily couldn't ignore. When Emily tried having one-on-one time with her father, Veronica somehow always appeared, redirecting conversations or suggesting they all do something together instead. As months passed, Emily's unease grew darker. Veronica began making subtle comments when Richard wasn't around. "Your father works so hard, Emily. I worry that family stress affects his health. You know how much he sacrifices for you." The implication was clear. Emily was the stress. Emily was the burden. Richard started pulling away. Phone calls that happened twice a week became every other week. When Emily visited, Richard seemed distracted, tired, not quite himself. Veronica was always there, hovering, managing his schedule and his medications. "Medications?" Emily asked one weekend. "Just some herbal supplements Veronica found," Richard said, waving it off. "For energy and focus. She's really into holistic health." Emily noticed other things too. New bank accounts Veronica had convinced Richard to open. A revised will that Veronica had helped him update. Expensive purchases under Veronica's name but paid for from joint accounts. Every time Emily tried voicing concerns, Veronica was ready with explanations delivered with such confidence that Richard accepted them without question. Emily started lying awake at night, scrolling through her phone, trying to find something that would explain why every instinct screamed this woman was dangerous. 3 months before the wedding, everything started to unravel. Emily's phone buzzed late one Tuesday night. An unknown number, a single text message. "You need to know who Veronica really is." Attached was a photograph. Veronica, or someone who looked exactly like her, standing beside a man in his 60s, both dressed formally. The photo was dated 4 years ago. Emily's hands shook as she typed back. "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "Someone who escaped. Look up Vanessa Cole, Miami, 2019. Emily's heart hammered as she opened her laptop. The search results made her blood run cold. Vanessa Cole, also known as Veronica Hayes, also known as Victoria Brennan. Wanted for questioning in connection with identity theft, financial fraud, and suspicious circumstances surrounding the death of her third husband, a wealthy real estate developer who died of an apparent heart attack just 6 months after changing his will to leave everything to his new wife. Emily clicked another link. Another man, another marriage, another mysterious death in Arizona. The husband had been a retired executive, 70 years old, dead within a year of their wedding from what was ruled natural causes. Veronica had inherited over $2 million and disappeared before the family could contest the will. There were others, always older men, always wealthy, always quick engagements, updated wills, and either sudden deaths or complete financial ruin, followed by Veronica vanishing without a trace. Emily thought she might throw up. She printed everything she could find and drove to her father's house at 7 in the morning. Veronica answered the door in a silk robe, coffee mug in hand. "Emily, sweetheart, it's so early. Is everything okay? I need to talk to Dad. Now." Richard appeared at the top of the stairs, looking exhausted. Emily thrust the folder into his hands. "That's Veronica, except her name isn't Veronica. It's Vanessa, or Victoria. She's been married at least 4 times, Dad. Every single one of her husbands either died under suspicious circumstances or lost everything. She's a con artist." Richard's face went from confusion to anger. "Emily, this is enough. These are conspiracy theories from the internet." Veronica moved beside Richard, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "It's okay, darling. She's upset. I understand you're protective of your father, but these accusations are hurtful and, frankly, disturbing." Richard closed the folder and handed it back to Emily. "I think you should leave. You're jealous, you're acting out, and I'm done enabling it." The words hit Emily like a physical blow. For just a moment, Emily saw triumph flash in Veronica's eyes before the concerned expression slid back into place. Emily called the number that had texted her. A woman answered. "My name is Diana. Veronica was married to my father. He died 3 years ago. The doctors said it was a heart attack, but my father was healthy. Then she showed up, swept him off his feet, and 6 months later, he was dead. She got everything. I've been tracking her ever since." "How many others are there?" Emily asked. "That I know of? 5. But I think there are more. She finds men who are lonely, vulnerable, usually widowers with money. She makes them dependent on her, isolates them, and then she takes everything. How does she kill them? I think she poisons them slowly. Nothing that shows up, obviously, on a tox screen. My father's autopsy showed elevated levels of certain herbal compounds, but it wasn't enough to prove anything." Emily's mind raced back to the supplements. "She's giving my dad something." "You need to get him tested," Diana said urgently. "And you need to stop that wedding." Emily hung up and remembered a name from the articles. Detective Marcus Harris, the investigator who'd worked Vanessa Cole's case in Miami. When she reached him, she explained everything. "I knew she was still out there," he said. "You need evidence. Real, undeniable evidence. Can you get access to her things?" Emily waited for a Thursday when Richard had a board meeting and Veronica had a hair appointment. She used her old house key to let herself in. In the master bedroom, beneath folded sweaters in the bottom dresser drawer, Emily's fingers brushed something hard, a locked metal box. She found a small key taped to the underside of the drawer. Inside were 3 passports, each with Veronica's photo but different names, legal documents, wills from different men, all leaving estates to their wives, bank statements showing large transfers. But the most damning item was a small notebook containing names, dates, and brief notes. Thomas, 72, heart condition, inherited $2.3 million. Michael, 68, diabetic, inherited home plus investments. Richard, 52, no major health issues, estate estimated at $4.7 million. Daughter Emily, potential interference. Beneath Richard's entry were more notes. Began supplements May 2023. Dosage increased October 2023, showing expected symptoms, fatigue, confusion, decreased appetite. Will updated November 2023. Wedding scheduled March 2025. Timeline on track. Emily's vision blurred with tears. She photographed everything, then carefully returned it all exactly as she'd found it. She took one bottle of the supplements her father was taking, replacing it with an identical bottle she'd purchased filled with actual vitamins. She needed to get the originals tested. The test results came back 5 days later. The supplements contained therapeutic doses of several legitimate herbs, but also significant amounts of compounds that would cause cognitive fog, fatigue, digestive issues, and most alarming gradual weakening of cardiac function. Nothing that would kill immediately, but over months these compounds would cause serious damage. The kind that would make a heart attack or stroke seem entirely natural. The pharmacist who ran the test flagged it immediately. Whoever formulated this knew exactly what they were doing. This is designed to harm someone slowly while looking like natural decline. Emily forwarded the report to Detective Harris and tried once again to call her father. This time, Richard answered, his voice weak and distant. "What do you want, Emily? Dad, please listen. I have proof. Medical proof that Veronica is poisoning you. Those supplements, they're dangerous. I had them tested. You need to stop taking them and go to a hospital. Emily, stop. Just stop. Do you hear yourself? You sound unhinged. I'm not doing this anymore. You need professional help." Richard's voice hardened in a way Emily had never heard. "Veronica was right about you. You can't handle me being happy. Well, I'm done. Don't call again. Don't come to the house. You're not invited to the wedding. You're out of my life until you get help." The line went dead. Emily sat there, phone in hand, feeling like her heart had been ripped out. He'd chosen Veronica. Even with evidence, even with proof, he'd chosen the woman slowly killing him over his own daughter. Detective Harris called the next morning. "I've been in touch with the fraud division and the DA's office. They're interested, but they want to move carefully. We need to catch her doing something actively illegal we can arrest her for on the spot." "The wedding," Emily said slowly. "She'll be committing fraud at the wedding. She's marrying him under a false identity." "That's actually brilliant," Detective Harris said. "Identity fraud, marriage fraud, potentially bigamy. If we can document her using a false identity to enter into a legal marriage, we can arrest her on the spot. But Emily, this means you'd have to let the wedding happen. At least up until the moment of the objection. Can you do that?" Emily thought about her father, about the man who'd raised her alone, who'd never missed a recital, who'd taught her to be strong and fight for what was right. "Yes," she said, "I can do it. Because I love him." And that's what love does. It saves people even when they don't want to be saved. The morning of the wedding, Emily woke up feeling like she might throw up. Detective Harris had coordinated with local police. Plainclothes officers would be stationed at the church, ready to move the moment Emily gave the signal. All Emily had to do was wait for the exact right moment. Object when the officiant asked. Present the evidence publicly so Veronica couldn't claim it was a misunderstanding. Make it undeniable. Emily dressed in a simple blue dress and parked down the street, watching guests arrive. Her father looked handsome in his tuxedo, but so tired. He moved slowly, like he'd aged 10 years in months. Veronica had done that. Poisoned him, manipulated him, isolated him, all while wearing that perfect smile. Emily waited in her car until she heard the music start, the processional that meant the ceremony was beginning. She got out, manila folder in hand, and walked to the church entrance. Through the closed doors, she heard the officiant's voice. "If anyone has just cause why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever. Hold your peace." Emily threw open the doors and strode down the aisle. 200 faces turned toward her, shocked, confused. She saw her father's face go white, saw Veronica's expression flicker with panic before she smoothed it away. "Dad," Emily's voice rang out clear and strong. "You can't marry her. You don't know what she did. What are you doing here?" Richard's voice was barely a whisper. "Emily, you need to leave." "I can't leave. I can't let you marry a murderer." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Veronica's face morphed into wounded innocence. "Richard, I don't understand. Why would she say such terrible things?" Emily held up the folder. "Her real name isn't Veronica Hayes. It's Vanessa Cole. She's been married at least 4 times before under different names. Every one of her previous husbands either died under suspicious circumstances or lost everything. She's a con artist and a killer, and she's been slowly poisoning you for months." The church erupted in murmurs. Richard shook his head. "This is insane. You've completely lost your mind." "Have I?" Emily pulled out photographs. "These are her passports, Dad. 3 different identities. These are death certificates of her previous husbands. This is a notebook where she documented giving you supplements that I had tested. They contain compounds designed to weaken your heart and cloud your judgment. She's been killing you slowly." Veronica's face went from shocked innocence to something harder. "You broke into my home. This is illegal. This is harassment." Actually, Detective Harris's voice came from the back of the church. As he walked down the aisle, badge held up, "What's illegal is fraud, identity theft, and attempted murder. Vanessa Cole, you're under arrest." Officers appeared from among the guests, moving toward the altar. Veronica looked around wildly, her composure finally shattering. "Richard, you can't believe this. Tell them you want to marry me." Richard stepped back. "You're not who you said you were. These documents, are they real?" Veronica's eyes filled with tears that now looked calculated. "I can explain everything." "No," Richard said, his voice breaking. "No, you can't. Because my daughter risked everything to save me, and I didn't believe her. I chose you over her." "Oh, God, what have I done?" The officer reached Veronica, pulling her hands behind her back. "Vanessa Cole, you have the right to remain silent." Veronica looked directly at Emily. "You think you've won, but he'll never forgive himself for doubting you. I've already destroyed your relationship. I've already won." Emily felt tears streaming down her face but kept her voice steady. "No, you haven't, because love isn't about being right or winning. It's about showing up even when it costs you everything, and I'd do it all again to keep him alive." The officers led Veronica out, her white dress trailing behind her. Richard stood at the altar, looking lost and broken. Emily approached him slowly. "Dad, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way." Richard looked at her, tears running down his face. "You tried to tell me. You tried so many times, and I wouldn't listen. You saved my life, and I treated you like you were the enemy." Then Richard reached out and pulled Emily into his arms, holding her like he used to when she was little. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. I love you. I love you so much." Emily held him tight, feeling him shake. "I love you too, Dad. I'll always fight for you. Always." The news broke within hours. Social media exploded with footage from the wedding. Black widow bride arrested at wedding. Daughter's dramatic rescue saves father's life. Detective Harris called Emily the next day. Vanessa Cole was being held without bail. We found evidence linking her to 6 different identities and at least 7 suspicious deaths. The DA is building cases for fraud, identity theft, bigamy, and 3 counts of murder. The families of her previous victims are finally getting justice. A full medical workup at the hospital revealed significant damage to Richard's heart and liver from the compounds Veronica had been giving him. The doctors said if he'd continued taking them for another few months, he likely would have had a fatal cardiac event. But he was going to physically recover. Emotionally was another story. Richard sat on Emily's couch, looking smaller than she'd ever seen him. "I keep replaying everything in my mind. Every conversation, every moment. Looking for the signs I missed." "You couldn't have known," Emily said. She was good at what she did. "But I should have known," Richard insisted. "I should have trusted you. You're my daughter. You've never given me a reason to doubt you." Emily took his hand. "She was a professional manipulator, Dad. That's what she did for a living. She studied people, found their weaknesses, their desires, and she exploited them. You wanted to be happy again after Mom. That's not a crime. That's being human." Over the following weeks, Richard began therapy to process what had happened. Emily went with him sometimes. They talked about grief, about loneliness, about how vulnerability can make us trust the wrong people. They talked about rebuilding their relationship brick by brick. It was slow. There were hard days when Richard couldn't look Emily in the eye, consumed by guilt. There were days when Emily had to remind herself that her father was a victim too, that the anger she felt toward him was really anger at what Veronica had done to both of them. But they kept showing up, kept trying, kept choosing each other even when it hurt. 6 months after the wedding that never happened, Emily and Richard stood together at Catherine's grave. It was her birthday. They'd brought flowers, white roses, the ones Richard had planned to have at the wedding because they reminded him of his wife. "I almost lost him, Mom," Emily said quietly, placing one of the roses on the headstone. "But I think he finally sees me again." Richard placed his hand on Emily's shoulder. "Your mother would be so proud of you. You have her strength, her courage. I just wish I'd seen it sooner." They stood there in silence as the sun set behind them, casting long shadows across the cemetery. Emily thought about how close they'd come to losing everything, how one woman's greed and cruelty had nearly destroyed what was left of their family. But it hadn't, because love, real love, doesn't give up. It fights. It endures. It shows up even when the door is slammed in its face. Richard had started volunteering with a support group for people who'd been victims of romance scams. He wanted to help others see the warning signs he'd missed, to prevent other families from experiencing what he and Emily had gone through. Emily had gone back to her graphic design work, throwing herself into creating, into building rather than destroying. They had dinner together every Sunday now, a standing appointment neither of them would break. Sometimes they talked about what happened, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes it was enough just to sit together, to exist in the same space, to remember that they'd survived, that they were still a family, that nothing, not manipulation or poison or lies, could take that away from them as long as they chose each other. Healing doesn't come from revenge, Emily realized. It comes from revelation, from seeing the truth, no matter how painful, and deciding to move forward anyway. What would you have done if you were Emily? Would you have stopped the wedding or let it happen? How would you feel watching your own father choose someone else over you, even when you were trying to save his life? Tell us in the comments below. And if this story gripped you, if it made you think about the people you love and how far you'd go to protect them, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional, twist-filled stories every week. Because sometimes the most dramatic moments in life aren't fiction. They're real. They're happening to someone right now. And they remind us that love, true love, means fighting for people even when they've stopped fighting for themselves. Next time, we'll bring you another story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Until then, hold your loved ones close. And never ignore your instincts when something feels wrong. They might just save someone's life.